Would you mind defining woke? Because it's come up a couple times, and I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
So, I mean, woke is sort of the idea that
conservative writer and anti-woke author Bethany Mandel was on The Hill Rising, where she was asked a basic question. What is woke? Define woke. You are an anti-woke author. You should be able to define what woke is. And it all collapsed. So I'm going to show you that clip. I'm also going to give you a lot of context here. So I got a couple of clips from this interview, which was very well done. Credit to Brianna Joy Gray, who conducted the interview. And I'm also going to insert two other clips in this discussion. One including another appearance from Bethany Mandel on Fox News, which you're going to see how ridiculous that is. I'm also going to insert some data, and I'm also going to tell you what wokeness is. A lot of people want to know, including people that write books about it. They want to know, so I will help define what woke is. But first, this is the big clip that went viral. I want to give credit here to the Vanguard. They're the ones that clipped this out of the interview on Twitter and made it go viral. So check out this, and there's some more context I include in my clip here.
The crux of the argument of the book is that there is sort of a woke reimagining of our society, and it's happening in a lot of different ways in a lot of different areas of our lives. We hope that, parents of all political stripes will pick up the book. This is sort of a woke reimagining that is very, very, very far left. Only 7% of Americans consider themselves very liberal, and probably fewer of them consider themselves to be woke. And so, when we talk about traditional...
What does that mean to you? Would you mind defining woke? Because it's come up a couple times, and I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
So, I mean, woke is sort of the idea that this is going to be one of those moments that goes viral. I mean, woke is something that's very hard to define, and we've spent an entire chapter defining it. It is sort of the understanding that we need to totally reimagine and redo society in order to create hierarchies of oppression. Sorry, it's hard to explain in a 15-second soundbite.
Yeah, look, your time.
This exposes the grift. You wrote a book about how dangerous wokeness is for kids, and you can't even define what woke is? Just a simple, basic definition. What is woke? Which, by the way, Robbie, the conservative there on the panel, goes on to explain it. I'm going to help explain it here in a second. But how do you write a book about this and you don't even have a basic answer for this? Even if your answer is wrong and it's ridiculous, you don't have an answer? This reminded me a lot of Matt Walsh's appearance on Joe Rogan. So Matt Walsh did a whole documentary, an anti-trans documentary called What is a Woman? And he was asked about how many adolescents are on hormone blockers. And look at his answer compared to the reality. And remember, when he's answering this, he did a documentary about how dangerous trans ideology is.
How many people have had this done?
Depends on what. I don't think we have exact numbers, but if we're talking about the drugs, millions.
You're talking about hormone blockers?
Yeah.
Millions of kids have been on hormone blockers? Really?
I'm sure someone's going to fact check me on that, but my guess is that we're into the millions now at this point. Yeah, that would be my guess.
It's a very small number, if that's right.
It says over the last 5 years, there were at least 4,780 adolescents who started puberty blockers and had a prior gender dysphoria diagnosis. Million sounds great.
Yeah, I could be wrong.
Yeah.
The Media Matters will have fun with that clip.
Yeah. Million sounds great. Works for your grift. And much like the Bethany Mandel clip, he also references how, this is going to go viral. Yeah, because it exposes your entire agenda. It exposes the whole grift you're doing. That you don't know what the hell you are talking about. That you are simply doing what you're doing for a paycheck. Now, to get back to Bethany Mandel, so she also said in that initial clip, only 7% of Americans define themselves as being very liberal, and probably fewer of them consider themselves to be woke. So she thinks less than 7% of Americans consider themselves to be woke. Here is a headline from just last week from The Hill. She's on The Hill Rising. From The Hill, Most in new poll view woke as a positive term. So I broke this down in a video last week when AOC was exposing this whole committee hearing that the GOP was having on wokeness in the federal government. Again, go watch that video to understand what the hell that was about. But this is from an Ipsos USA Today poll. Let me show you the results here quickly. 56% of people say that being woke is to be informed, educated on, and aware of social injustices, while 39% say to be overly politically correct and police others' words, which, by the way, both can be true depending on how the word's being used. So this is why this word is so stupid, because there is no real this is what it means. It's all about context around how the word is being used. So yeah, people can be overly politically correct or police others. Like, just to get back to the whole, how Matt Walsh fearmongers around trans people and Bethany Mandel in a roundabout way doing it as well. It's one thing to get something wrong. Like, it's one thing to accidentally misgender somebody and then have, I don't know, maybe an awkward conversation, which is what it seems a lot of this is about. I'm going to get to her appearance on Fox News, which references that. But, it's one thing to have that awkward conversation. You misgender somebody and then you're corrected and then now you know their pronouns. Okay, move on with your life. It's another thing to be unwilling to learn and be unwilling to treat someone with basic human decency. Once you know how someone defines themselves, how they want to be called, and you still don't do that, at that point, you're just being a jerk. So, understand, yes, there can be times where someone makes you feel bad for not knowing something. And yeah, you can feel bad in that moment. And maybe they're wrong to, get angry at you because you just didn't know. But you just learn, move on, and then it's fine. But to have to build your entire ideology around trying to avoid awkward conversations is a little much. And also in this poll, just to show you, if someone described you as woke, would you consider it an insult or a compliment? People are split, of course. Most Republicans view it as an insult. But largely, there aren't real majorities here. Because again, it all depends on the context. Who's using it? How they're using it? How are they calling you that? Is it in a positive context, a negative context? So, it could be viewed as both, regardless of who you are and how it's being used. Now, let me get to the rest of that clip, because there's more I want to discuss there, and then I'll get to Bethany Mandel's appearance on Fox News.
It's definitely something you know what it is when you see it, but
is it wrong?
It is.
Will you define wokeness then?
I would say it's the tendency to punish people formally or often informally for expressing ideas using language specifically that is very new, that no one would have objected to like 5 seconds ago. So it's easier to come up with examples like, punishing people for using the wrong pronouns or identifying structures of that kind. I would say it's the system
a lot
of doing
forced
actual
conformity
sanctions.
as well.
Let's take that example. Bethany, you're talking about small children. So is the argument in your book that a 5-year-old is coming home from school, not using someone's pronouns and getting castigated by their teachers or family for not being sufficiently woke? Or is there some other kind of phenomenon that you're pointing to more specifically that's affecting young kids in your book?
So with the example of a 5-year-old, one example that one of my friends just posited on Twitter, her 5-year-old came home and said, I like girls. And so that means different things to different people. For an adult, and sort of what the adults were sort of telling that child and what they understood they were sort of framing for that child was that it's okay to be gay or straight, and more of a sexuality question. Whereas for children, it's more, I like girls and I like boys.
So Bethany, I saw that tweet that you mentioned. It was someone who said, I was recently at my friend's son's 8th birthday party. I was chatting with one of the moms, and she said that her 5-year-old daughter came home from school and said she likes girls, and that her teacher said that's okay. So the response seems to have been that's okay, without more editorializing about whether it's sexual or not. Although you quote tweeted it saying, talking about sexuality with young children weird again, make that weird again.
Yeah.
Without more, it does seem like that's just that's fine and let it go, and we'll see if she grows up and is actually lesbian or she just likes hanging out with her friend Crystal. So what would you prefer a parent do? What do we think is the appropriate course of action there to tell a kid it's not okay to like girls?
No, so the rest of that tweet said, the mother was complaining that this is kind of constant messaging that's happening at the school.
This is amazing because here Bethany Mandel is exposed again. This clip is not getting as much attention, but here the tweet. All the teacher did was say that's okay to the comment about this girl saying she likes girls. That's all the teacher did. Bethany Mandel is the one that quote tweeted it and then is the one that sexualized that comment when all the teacher said was that's okay. Again, exposing how these conservative commentators, these authors, they're the ones generating this grift out of absolutely nothing. And she goes on to make another argument about how, literature and movies for kids now, they're being exposed to more sexualization, when it's really just about movies recognizing now that there are same-sex relationships that exist in society. Was it sexualizing before when it was a prince and a princess? No. So why is it one now if it's two princesses? Like, it's all so stupid. This is all about nothing. It's all a way to make money. It's all a way to fearmonger parents, get them to buy their books, watch their shows. It's all ridiculous. Now let me get to another example of that. Here's Bethany Mandel's appearance on Fox News about a year ago, again exposing just how empty all of this is.
There's this saying, squeaky wheel gets the grease, and the small minority within the Walt Disney Company that's part of the LGBT community are screaming the loudest. They're being the loudest. They're being the most vocal.
And Bethany, so he, one of the other things he said is the misconception is that everybody at Disney is a raging liberal, and that can't be farther from the truth.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I heard from a Disney employee who asked me sort of off the record, what can I do? How can I speak out? I'm afraid to talk on our company Slack. I'm afraid to talk to people in my office because I never know what is okay to say anymore. If you can't say a woman is a woman and a man is a man, you can't greet someone. And so it's a really sort of terrifying environment for him to work in 8 hours a day.
Oh, what a terrifying environment for this Disney employee to work in. 8 hours a day. Terrifying environment because he may misgender somebody. He may have an awkward conversation where he's told what this person's pronouns are. Just terrifying environment. As opposed to, living in Florida as a trans person, where there is a bill to criminalize gender-affirming care, where Florida courts could allow emergency custody of kids with trans parents or siblings, even if they live in another state. Or living in a country where the ACLU has tracked 413 anti-LGBTQ bills in the U.S., including over 10 in Florida. This is an actual terrifying environment. Misgendering somebody, having an awkward conversation where you learn what someone's pronouns are, and that's the extent of it. How is that terrifying? This is how they have defined their entire ideology around awkward conversations. Get over it. Learn someone's pronouns and move the fuck on. All of this is so stupid. Yet they continue making these appearances on conservative networks, writing books, making documentaries, all because they're afraid of some awkward conversation and recognizing someone's humanity. Just being a decent person. They don't want to be decent people, so instead they make all this money off of this garbage.